Yes, it's my very first time in Asia and my very first time in China.
Okay. Can you talk about your image of China before you came here?
Yes, I saw many documentaries on German television mostly, or also on YouTube, and it influenced my image of China. And I think I was very much interested in the countryside and the immense variety of Chinese landscape. But other than that, it's hard for me to talk about it because I've been here for 3 months now, and now I've experienced a little part of China myself, so I barely remember what I thought before coming to China. But I think I was surprised how I was very surprised how important smartphones and WeChat is. I didn't expect that.
Okay. Do you still remember what kind of YouTube video you watched?
Yes, I watched, I don't remember the name of the channel, I think, but it was an American man who did motorcycle trips. And at some point he met a Chinese woman and they've been married for 8 years and they have a child. So he was talking from his American perspective, how it is to move to China, get married and to open a business. So it was interesting because it was his Western perspective on China, and then he would make nice videos about how Chinese breakfast is different than the breakfast we like, maybe. I think the channel is Conquering China or something, the name. Conquering China, yeah. Conquering China. Some of the videos were very silly and they weren't art related, but that's what I found, so I just watched them all as a preparation a little bit.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you have any friends that have experienced living in China?
I have a very good Chinese friend. I don't know exactly the town she's from. So I talked with her about it, and she helped me to meet some very nice Chinese people here. And then also the organization who gave me the grant, they have a stipend every year. So before I came, I met one of the guys who had the same grant as I did, so who came to get residency 2 years ago. So he loved it, he liked it a lot, so he told me about the village and the art scene and what he did when he was here. Yeah.
Okay. Can you talk about your understanding of German culture?
Yeah. So in Germany, I'm an immigrant myself because I was born in Romania and I moved to Germany when I was 7 years old. So I guess I have a different perspective on German culture than someone who was born there. But I would say that for me, what is very specific is that there's a big accuracy in German culture. So on average, they like to do things very precise and professional, and there's a depth in thinking and also in engineering, and like a kind of, they think it all through and try to make it very perfect. So the sense of like this analytical thinking is something very German, I would say, and I really like that about German culture. But it's very difficult to talk about it in general because every subject has its own differences, like cultural life, like social life, friendships, and how they deal with history. But it has I really like the depth of German thinking and German feelings, maybe also German.
What do you mean?
The depth, like the depth.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's very. Yeah, the depth, like serious. You know, like it has a good ground. They try to think as like really to get to the ground of the things.
Do you mean that kind of idealism?
That's yeah. Well, that was this philosophy period. No, I don't mean that. I mean just that the tendency to really, you know, to not do something superficially, but do it good, as good as possible, so that it will last for a long time. And I think you can see that often in German culture, for example, like designing something. So it should be practical and usable and in good quality. And you can also find this way of making things like taking things seriously in every kind of parts, I would say, every kind of.
Okay. Anything that in China particularly influenced your practice, you think?
Hard to tell now. It's a little bit too early, so I'm leaving tomorrow. I've been here for 3 months. I'm very sure that it influenced me, but it's too early to point the finger on it and to say exactly what it is. I know that in general, I was very much inspired how vivid the life is here. It's very, very active. Like the streets are full of people. Private life is taking place openly, publicly. You could see grandparents with their kids, couples in a park, they're dancing in the park. That was something new to me, and I love that. It's open. You can, once you leave your apartment, you can be sure that you will see something interesting or curious or maybe even funny. And I loved that. And I also liked that shops and markets, it's not so strictly divided, right? So, for example, in Germany, it would be very organized and clean and neat. And for, for creative thinking, it's interesting to mix things together which maybe don't belong together at the first point or at the first moment. And here, when I go to the market, I can find like meat, and then next to it there's a booth selling fabrics or stuff like that. So I really like this variation.
So on the Open Studio that you make a video of your painting.
Yeah.
So why do you want to change the medium to present those paintings?
So that was actually maybe the best outcome of my time in China, that I finally made the step to change the medium and to try a new medium out. And maybe it was because I felt sometimes a little bit isolated, or it was just like a very different working process in general. And I decided, so I was thinking about that even back in Germany, but here the circumstances were just ideal. It was quiet enough, and I was in the mood to change something or to explore. And the idea was maybe that while I am painting, I can see how the painting is changing in front of my eyes so often. And it's a very interesting process, and sometimes it can be really intense. And of course, as a painter, I'm always hoping that all the different layers and all the different parts of the process are within the painting, and that you can see it and read it and maybe even feel them, but you never know. So I was thinking to create a path, just like a path, like to make this process a little bit more visual for the public, and for that I choose to incorporate time, so to make videos. And I do have a topic for the video, but let's say the very first idea was to visualize this painting process, to make it move, to see how, if it's through this different dimension of time, if the perception of the painting will have a stronger impact.
So this is your first time using video?
It's my very first time, yeah. Yeah. Yeah, and it's very interesting. So also I loved Chinese ink here, so then I like to restrict myself to the color blue. So maybe it was ideal to be here, maybe, yeah. I think that was, I forgot to say that certainly I went to many museums in China. I went to Xi'an and some museums, and in Beijing, of course, and galleries. And I was very interested in ancient Chinese culture. So I did go and see as many paintings and porcelain vases and as possible. And of course I love this blue on white. White and blue is something very Chinese, right? Coming from the porcelain painting. So I think that also was a reason to just restrict myself to the color blue, which made it simpler to make a video, because then you have this.
Into blue here because of the pollution.
No, I don't know.
It's rarely to see a blue sky, so people's getting really obsessed with the color blue.
Really? I did not know that.
Especially like creators, like painters, myself included.
But then it would be more light blue,
Yeah.
like beautiful light blue.
Your one is more like a dye blue.
Yeah,
Color dye.
like denim blue or yeah, indigo.
Yeah, indigo blue.
Yeah, I noticed how, like today and yesterday was so beautiful. So it's almost like being completely excited just because it's so nice outside.
Air is so nice. Okay, next question. Can you talk about your life in China without VPN?
Yes, yes. So I decided to not get VPN because I was interested to see how the internet is here for Chinese people. And at the beginning it was hard. I did not miss Facebook at all because back home I didn't like the impact it had on me. It's a little, sometimes it's a waste of time because it's very easy to get lost on Facebook. And so I didn't miss Facebook. But I started to miss YouTube at some point because I wanted to get some distractions to watch a film or video. So in Germany I would go to YouTube and I couldn't, and then I went to Youku, but I couldn't speak Chinese, I couldn't understand the writing, so sometimes I would just end up watching random videos. And eventually I stopped and just got a DVD drive and watched the DVDs here. And then again, it got really complicated when I wanted to do some research for my art, because I know there are many great stop motion animation videos from different artists, from like also really old ones, and I don't necessarily know all the names of the artists. So what I would do is go on YouTube, just type it in, and then I would find like thousands of interesting videos. And I did the same with Bing, but then I just didn't have any access to the videos, or just very few. So that was a little bit frustrating because then it was cutting my artistic research. that was a problem. But other than that, I had access to all the important German websites. For example, like I had to write some applications for German grants. I could access them. The very, very important things were open. So it was just actually YouTube what I missed.
And you can still contact your friends and family?
Yeah, it was no problem. I have a Hotmail email account, was functioning perfectly, really quick, really nice, no problem. I sent photos, many photos, was all fine. It was all good, yeah. And yeah, I guess I didn't use the internet in general as much, and you know how we people are. We always look for a reason to waste our time. I mean, now I do it on WeChat because I think WeChat is a little bit similar like Facebook. And at the beginning, I only had 3 or 4 contacts. Now I have 20 or 30. So I know that you can just, you can just see the subscriptions and you can just get lost in it the same way you do on Facebook.
If you speak Chinese and WeChat is just like Facebook?
It's just like Facebook. I heard so, yeah. And I understood within those 3 months that people are using it also in a very professional way. Like it's a little bit like your website. So I asked a friend of mine who's a painter about if Chinese artists have their websites, and he said, well, many don't have because it's either WeChat or they're already represented in a gallery, which is like more professional, obviously. So it's not so common. And I was also surprised to see that, yeah, people don't use business cards anymore. It's all with WeChat. Yeah, I was like.
Okay, next question. It's a bit strange. Some people describe German are like trees, rise rapidly, territorial and not inviolable. What do you think of that?
Yeah, I was. Is this like a Chinese proverb?
No.
No?
It's actually from a work of German artists.
Okay. What is the last word? They're not
Inviolable?
Oh.
Like can be like you said before, you have a set up rule and it can be changed, can be touched. It's pretty much like stick to the rules.
Yeah. Yeah. Maybe it's too short. I don't know if they are territorial. I like the idea that they are like trees. I think I like this metaphor of a German being like a tree because they need, for example, a friendship in Germany grows slowly, but then once you have a friend, it's very, very stable, just like a tree. You know, the roots are very deeply grounded, so you can really count on that. So I like the metaphor of a tree. I'm not so sure about the territorial thing and.
Because if you think of trees, even you cut off the trees, the roots are still on the ground.
Yeah.
So you still on like the ground. I think that's what I mean of the territorial.
Ah, yeah. Well, it might be right. I mean, I said something similar at the beginning, right? That they like to go deep in the ground, to really understand things and to make something solid.
Cool. So you agree? You agree? It's pretty much like trees.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah. National character.
Yeah, a little bit. And I also like the idea that a tree, moves, of course, the leaves with the wind, but it's a very, it's still, it wouldn't move completely, right? Like the ground is is stable forever. It just moves. And maybe that's true, that there's a certain conservatism, or at least the idea of preserving. That's something very German, and I really like that about Germany, preserving culture, preserving history, not, trying that people do not forget, and that we keep the good things in our culture from generation to generation. So they invest in that.
Okay, next question, even heavier. Do you think that German national character was somehow decreased after the World War II?
Yeah, that's a tough one. I would say that the character of all nations who were involved in Second World War changed. Actually, like not only the German ones, the Russian ones, the Jewish one, the American one, because it was the cruelty reached such an incredible point that it was very shocking for everyone. I mean, for so many people at that time and even afterwards. So I definitely think it changed the character of its nations, and maybe of human beings in general, because it was such a disappointment that we are still, after so many thousands of years of culture, that we are still able to do horrible things, like really horrible things.
Okay.
Cool.